Hey everyone, welcome back to Anime Sekai Podcast. I'm your host, Mikan.
And I am your host, Ichigo. Hey guys.
Hey guys. Join us this week as we discuss the anime To Me, the One Who Loved You. Hey guys, we're back.
Hey guys, welcome back.
So this week we will be talking about the anime To Me, the One Who Loved You, also known in Japanese as Kimi wo aishita hitori no boku e. I actually need to get your opinion on this because I'm very curious. But before, just a little background, guys. This is like a two-part sort of series. So there's like another one to Every You I've Loved Before, and they don't have a particular order, but you can actually watch them whichever one you want, but they are like interlacing stories. And so we watched To Me first. So that's just the order we decided to pick.
hmm
But a little background. So this story centers around a boy named Kiyomi. He's a 7-year-old boy, and his dad is a researcher at a Japanese Institute of Virtual Science. And sort of his parents get divorced, and he goes with his father. And his father is studying or investigating the phenomenon of parallel worlds. And through his father's job, he meets a girl named Shiori Sato, and she's the daughter of another divorced researcher. And as Kiyomi and Shiori grow closer together over the years, the two intend to marry in the future. However, their plans sort of come to a halt when their parents decide to marry each other. And so now they're fated to be step siblings. So they refuse to accept this reality. So, using their parents' research, both of them escape to a parallel world to start their lives together. But in the end, they sort of face repercussions that will put the very futures they strove for in danger. And it kind of is a story that goes from there. I have to know because
hmm
I already know what I'm thinking about the story. What did you feel about the first part of this?
So I I liked the story. Let me
Okay.
start there. I definitely think it kind of kept my attention. And for anybody that has not seen this movie, we will be giving spoilers. We have not seen the other half of the movie as we are recording this episode.
Yes.
So we might change our minds by the time
Yeah. By the
we
second
get
one.
to the second one. But I thought the storyline was interesting. I'm a big fan on shoujo movies particularly,
Mhm.
so the only thing that I was not 100% a big fan of was the art style.
Okay.
Personally, for like a movie, I thought the it should be like the movements and the characters were very.
Like, it was a lower quality type of movie.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. The budget might have
Yeah.
been a little smaller, yeah.
Right, right, which is fine. The storyline was good. The voice acting in the beginning threw me off.
Oh, really? I didn't even
Yeah,
think that too hard.
and I
Was it the
think
kid? Or,
it
like, when they were little?
was it was the kids. uh, If I'm being 100% blunt and honest, I felt like the voice actors, which is rare in Japanese, were kind of not as emotional in certain
Okay,
aspects
okay.
as I would have liked them to have
I have
been.
s so I got something to add to that, yeah. But, yeah, what else did you
Overall, I thought the story was good.
Okay.
There were definitely certain moments that I could, like, feel my eyes watering up. I didn't cry, but I was like, "Oh," like, it really kind of hit my heart, and I
Mhm.
think that it was good. Is it a favorite of mine? Like, will I be adding it to my favorites list? Probably not, but I think it's a good movie.
Okay.
That's all I got to say. I've got more to say, but those were my initial
Mhm.
reactions to the movie.
So, what I gotta say is
You got a lot. I can feel it. I can feel it.
not too much, but I got some words. First of all, the main thing for me was whose romance am I supposed to be watching? Like, whose
Yeah.
I know it was it's categorized as romance and sci-fi, the genres, but I was
Yeah.
like, whose romance exactly am I supposed to be following in this? I didn't get that part. It was very confusing, and I feel like probably in the like, the other one, they might maybe show a little bit more of these characters, I don't know,
Mhm.
but in this one, it just felt like I was watching Kiyomi and Kazune's love story, but it was such a brief moment, like, in a montage sort of toward
Yeah.
the end, and I was rooting for this first girl, and I was, like, confused, like but I felt their love wasn't even a real love. First of all, that montage was hilarious to me, but
It
came
was
out of
quick. It
nowhere.
was like they
It
threw
was
it
so quick. It was
in
literally
there, and I'm
like
like, "Wait a
body did.
minute."
Yeah, and it was basically all to save another girl, and that was the majority
Yes.
of the character development was with these 2, though. But the thing was, I was just like, it didn't even feel like a real romance. It was just put in there to
Yeah. It
and I'm
felt
just like,
more of
"What
a
was"
romance with Shiori and Koyomi rather
Yeah,
than
but they didn't have any development, which was the sad part. Maybe they'll have in the other one. You know what I mean?
well, the other one on the poster, so I saw the poster for it. I didn't look at any of the description or
It's
anything. I haven't seen a
it
trailer, but it's got her on the
Kazune,
poster.
right? Is it
Yes.
Shuri? Yeah. No, Kazune, right?
It's Kazune on
Yeah, I saw
the
that too.
other one, but she's not on the poster for this one. So that's
This
why
one, yeah, so maybe
I was
there's
confused at that too.
but I just honestly, the whole premise, the whole plot of, like, also running away because they were step siblings, but technically they can still get married, it just kinda made the whole thing pointless to me and a bit useless. Like, my man had to go through all this because of their stupidity, and it just makes me laugh, like, the plot is just hilariously stupid. I just couldn't get over that.
Well, and the other part of it is so they are young
Yeah.
and, kids do not dumb stuff, but like kids jump to conclusions.
Mhm.
And I'm sure we as kids, we've jumped to conclusions. And it's one of those situations where it's like, oh, shoot, well, my mom is going to marry your dad. So that makes us step siblings. So then we really can't get married and we really like each other. And there
Mhm.
are so many shoujo anime that have this as like their main storyline that they just kind of like, okay, well, we're just going to get married. And I
Yeah.
think an old school one that, if I remember correctly, I believe it's Marmalade Boy. This
Okay.
girl and this guy, their parents, they don't get divorced, but like they switch partners. And so the
Okay.
girl's mom and dad switch partners with the boy's mom and dad, but the girl and the boy are classmates.
Huh.
Yeah. And in that aspect, it reminded me just a little bit of that relationship. So in the beginning, when the parents announced, okay, we're gonna get remarried to each other, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is gonna take a turn for now they're siblings and they're not going to like they're gonna try and not love each other, even though they do love each other.
Mhm.
And thus they're gonna try and keep away from each other. But then they
Like a
can't.
little
Like,
taboo.
like that
Yeah.
shoujo trope where it's
Taboo
like,
love, yeah.
yeah, the taboo love. Exactly. That's the way I thought it was going to, but it took a real left turn when they jumped into the parallel world.
It did.
And spoiler, Shiori dies in the parallel
Technically,
world.
yeah.
And in their original world, her body is there, but her spirit has left her body. And she is
Mhm.
diagnosed as like brain dead, quote unquote, but she didn't have any damage to her brain. It's a little weird. So basically, they end up in a parallel world. She already gets hit by a truck
Of course.
because truck.
Truck-kun.
Yeah, so I was about to say truck coons out
They
here
taking out
taking
everybody.
everybody. Well, I think was it a truck or was it a car?
I think it was a car, actually, but it's okay,
E-
we'll say
e- e-
truck-kun.
Either way it goes, truck kun and kuruma-san.
Yeah, Kurumasa.
Kuruma is car in Japanese, so Kuruma-san took Shiori out. She passes away. So then years pass, and while her body is still there and she is put on a machine to keep her heart beating, Koyomi decides to dive deep into basically studying parallel
Saving her.
worlds and
Yeah, and
trying to
saving
save
her.
her. Um, the whole parallel world thing threw me off.
I agree. I feel like they spent way too much time with the science of the time shift and parallel world. It was just, in my opinion, just too much and a little too boring. And for like
Mm,
any story with time travel or like parallel universes, when you start to spend like way too much time on the topic, it kind of ruins the whole story a lot, in my opinion, because
mm,
like as of now, it's like just more of concept. It's
mhm,
like not a reality for us in this time. Well, who knows? But it's just not a reality for us in our current time with our current technology, whatever. And it kind of ruins the magic, in my opinion, when you just focus too much on it. And that was like the basis of majority of the story. And I'm like, I don't even get the romance. Like where it was
yeah,
just sci-fi.
the story definitely took a hard shift from romance to now this is a sci-fi, but
Mhm.
the backing of the sci-fi aspect is this guy's love for Shiori, which I get, I understand, and I understand that he's grieving because that was also a main point of this story is that he is grieving and he doesn't how to move past that because he can't forgive himself
Yeah.
for what happened with her. He was hurting way too much. And so the
Mhm.
story kind of focused on him and his scientific aspect of trying to bring her back rather than maybe him trying to move on because there's I think 2 scenes in the movie where he is I don't know if he's forced into the parallel future or if he's just like fell asleep and saw the future where he was with Kazune,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering if that is a link to the other movie. I'm curious to know that. That's
It
number
could
1.
be. Yeah.
Number 2 is he did everything in his power to avoid that scene from
Yeah.
happening,
Which scene?
where he wakes up and he's in bed with her. So the very
Oh,
first time he sees that, he's a little
yeah.
bit older, and she already hasn't passed away yet. This was, like,
Uh-huh.
right before he found out that she already had passed away, officially, like, in their universe, and I remember he woke up and he just saw, like, her back and her hair, and it made me think, "Oh, Shiori," like, he's found a parallel universe where Shiori is alive and they are together, and so now he's going to figure out how to get back to her in order to be with her.
Oh,
And
you thought that
then
flashback was her.
I thought the first flashback was her. Or not it wasn't a
Oh,
flashback, it was like they were in the
it was like
future
a
because he was
glimpse. Yeah, yeah,
older.
like a glimpse, yeah.
Right.
Oh, interesting. I actually thought the complete opposite. I was like, "That is not her." I didn't think that was her, and I was like, "Who is that?" And then I think they start to show Cousinette, I believe afterwards
That
she
was the
came in?
second one. That was the
Uh-huh.
second time they showed that scene. So they showed that scene twice.
Yeah. And then I was like, "Oh, it's her."
Well,
Not
yeah,
not the
because they
second
showed her
the first
face.
time. No, 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 the first time already. I was like, "Who is that?" Because that's not Shiori. And then they showed Cousin It, not, like, with the flashback, like, her introduced her, and I was like, "Oh, I bet that's her."
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The only reason I thought it was Shiori is because the way the flow of that particular part of the movie goes is
Mhm.
he's trying to figure out a parallel universe that Shiori is alive because he says
Yeah.
every single universe I've gone to, she's a ghost.
Yeah.
And obviously he's getting older and then he falls asleep on the couch and I'll say he was thrown into the parallel universe in the future and I'm thinking okay it's the future so maybe he's found a way to get to her but it's in the future and she looks different but then when I heard her voice I was like that's not the same voice actress so who's this woman and then I
Uh-huh.
thought but they're supposed to be older.
Older, yeah.
So then I was like, okay, well, it makes sense that her voice is different because when she passed away, she was in
She was, like, a
like,
little yeah,
sh-
young
she
girl.
was in high school, I think.
Yeah.
So that made sense in as I was watching it. I was like, "Okay, maybe it is Shiori." And then right after that, they introduced Kazune, and I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
maybe it's her."
Uh-huh. Interesting. Okay, I
S
had a totally different I thought that was, like, his way of almost seeing, like, what to do to, like,
Mm,
solve the problem. That was sort of when it started to go downhill for me because I was like, "Wait a minute. I don't think that's her." So does that mean, like, he's gonna solve the problem, and to solve the problem, he has to be with somebody else? And then it kinda just went downhill from there because I was, like, rooting for them, you know?
mhm.
And then this other girl comes, and I was like, "Oh, that's probably her." And then it just, yeah,
Ah,
kept going. And so I was already, like, at that point, I was like, wait a minute." I was very confused because I was like, "Is this not their romance?" Like, I assumed it was their love story. Technically, it kinda
yeah.
was in a weird, twisted way. Yeah, it just made me question everything.
There was a lot of back and forth, and I'm wondering, will the other
Mhm.
movie fill the answers that we have with this?
I don't know, that's a good question. Honestly, I've seen some comments, saying that if you watch To Me before To Every, this the one we watched first, it
Mhm.
ends in a happier ending,
What?
and then the other way is a little more sad or something like that. That's what they said.
Well, I could see the happier ending.
Well, we don't know yet because the second one is
Yeah, we haven't
if
seen
we watch that
the other one yet, yeah.
they said, if you watch the second one second like we are, it'll be end in a happy ending.
So
But I
then
guess if you
it
watch the one we watched, it'll be a little bit sad.
okay, so then the one that we watched, at the very
Supposedly is a
end
sadder ending.
is the sadder ending? Okay. So the one that we watched, which is To Me, the
Yeah,
One
to
Who Loved
me.
You, the ending of that one is sadder than the than To Every.
If you watch it in the reverse order, supposedly
Oh,
it feels sadder. So
I
we
see.
watched the one where supposedly it's gonna end happier on a happier note, is what I supposedly read. I don't know if that's true until I watch the second one, but
Mm. I mean, I didn't dislike it at all. I thought it was very
mhm.
interesting. I enjoyed it. But ultimately, the main thing that I got out of this movie is how far would you go for the one that you love?
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I mean, the man spent his entire life
He spent his
stuck on this
entire
girl.
life. Well, and I think part of him is one, he couldn't forgive himself for what
Mhm.
happened to her. Two, they literally have the trope of we were childhood friends first because they met at 7 years old. They lived in the same area, they went to the same school, they hung around each other all of the time, to now they're starting to fall in love with each other, to boom, now all of a sudden they are quote unquote forced to be step siblings, even though they love each other and they know that they love each other.
Mhm.
They know that they have feelings for each other. So they escape. A tragedy happens. One of them passes away, and the other one is so stricken with grief
Yeah.
over what has happened that they can't move forward. So, what do? This person has died in a parallel universe. So, if I go to another parallel universe where she is alive, I can save her, essentially.
Yeah.
And so then that's the whole premise of this movie is he is so stricken with grief, he's so
Yeah.
like hurt that he literally takes his whole lifetime to be with the one that he loves. And to be honest, despite everything that I might feel about this movie, I honestly think that that is the best way to describe this movie is how far
Okay.
would you go for the one that you love?
Mhm. I could see that. Like, what would you sacrifice, you know? In this one, it felt like, what would you sacrifice so that the person you love can be happy?
Mhm.
'Cause, like, they didn't in this one, sort of, didn't really end up together. In fact, he had to take himself out of her sort of life to make sure that this would never
Mhm.
happen to her. So, yeah, like, I think I do like
Well, and
that
there is a
notion.
yeah, there is a line where he told Kazune, "I cannot forgive myself for what I did to her. She should be happy, and the only way for her to be happy is for her never to have met me." And
Mhm.
I was like, "Dang." So it got me curious. If you were in Koyomi's position,
Yeah.
how far would you go for, and this might be a very vague answer, but, like, I'm just curious to know how far would you go for a significant other?
I mean, if I felt the guilt, I'm assuming I would probably feel the same way he did. But the thing
Mhm.
is, I look at it as I mean, I hope they do touch on this because the person I felt the worst for was Kazune
Mm,
because she basically sacrificed her life being in 2nd place in a sense.
mhm.
I don't even know if technically I'm assuming they loved each other, but it kind of felt, at least from this movie, she loved him and basically did this for him, chasing after his first love.
Yeah, she sacrificed a lot, definitely. She
And I
sacrificed
hope
her life for
yeah,
him. Mhm.
and I hope at least maybe this is what they're talking about in the 2nd one. I hope at least he gave her a happy life in return, you know what I mean? And the montage and everything they showed.
What happened in the other movie, To Every?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering,
Mm. I
but
mean,
I don't know
I could see that. I could
because I
see
don't know
that.
who they're gonna touch on more, like, is it gonna be Shiori or is it gonna be Kazune?
Yeah, it could be the opposite, like, maybe, and I'm just assuming, but maybe how this movie kinda was more centered, or at least to us, it seemed like the relationship focus was on Kazune's unrequited love. I'll put it that
Uh-huh.
way. And Koyomi and Shiori's mutual love, that I'm assuming for To Every could be the opposite.
Okay, okay. Interesting. I feel like the whole love story technically was dedicated to Shiori in
Mhm.
this one, but you know how it says, "To every you I've loved before"?
Right. Because there's parallels of her that he's trying to find.
I actually looked at it as because if in every universe, I'm assuming in every universe he has to stay away from her, right?
'Cause she's a ghost.
Uh-huh. So I'm wondering in every universe he must fall in love with Kazune. Does that mean to every
Oh,
and he's it's about the love story about her where he to every universe version of her that he's loved.
that's a good question.
And
I
maybe that's
don't
why she's on the
know.
cover. Because I really did feel in the end, this was like a love story between him
And
and
her.
Shiori, technically, in a weird off-centered way, but
So
maybe the
wait,
other one will be
that begs the question, did you watch past the credits for this movie?
the end, yeah, when they go, like,
Yeah.
meet up. Yeah.
Yes. So who was that Kazune that was in the house with him?
The old lady?
Mhm. 'Cause it didn't look
Yeah.
like her, but
No,
was
I
it
think that
her?
was her. Yeah, that was her.
Are you sure? 'Cause she had on a wedding band and so did he. Did you catch that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, is this a universe where they get married, they get old together? And because he says the first thing he says when he wakes up is, "Oh, I'm still alive." And I'm like, "Okay." And then he gets that reminder for August 17th to
Mhm, to
go to
meet.
that crosswalk to meet.
Yeah. Yeah.
She gives him her hat, and I looked at her because Kazune has the those bright pink, not bright, but like hot pink purple eye color,
Mhm.
whereas Shiori's eyes were dark. So the woman that he was talking to, I looked real hard at her eyes because I was like, "Is this Kazune?" Because it didn't look like her.
Interesting.
And if it wasn't her, then he married somebody else because they both had on wedding rings.
Yeah. Well, he did marry Cousin It.
He did marry Kazune in the alternate, but that's what I'm wondering is, was this Kazune that he was in the house?
Interesting. That's a good take. But the thing was her eyes, like, her eyes I don't know, I don't know how Shiori looks when she's older, but her eyes, like, Kazuna's eyes are kinda, like, flat, like, and I thought, like, she had
Mhm.
that vibe
Well, that's what
as
I
that old
thought
lady.
too. That's the one thing that I noticed is he first thing he says when he wakes up is, "Oh, I'm alive." Then he doesn't remember the promise he's supposed to go meet with technically meet with Shiori on
Mhm.
the 17th, and, like, the very, very end when they meet, he was like, "I'm sorry, I don't remember who you are," and she says, "Oh, I'm no one special. I don't have a name."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, they actually did, like, meet," but he didn't remember.
Yeah.
And in the beginning of the movie, she said, "I had a dream that helped you, and
Mhm.
but you didn't remember, and I told you I'm not." That was my, like, full circle moment,
Okay, I see.
but it really made me wonder who the other woman was.
I feel like, in my opinion, I thought it was Cousin It because in all the other universes as well, he I'm assuming he did the same thing. He made sure to
Mhm.
stay away from Shiori, or that was his goal or whatever, and to do that, he would, I guess, end up with Cousin It.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
in this universe, I assumed it was, like, another parallel where he basically promised, like, "Hey, I'll meet you again," and then he did.
Well, then if that's the case, how did they know? Because if he didn't remember, and I'm gonna say it was Kazune that he's married to, but if Kazune was like, "Oh, we'll just go to the crosswalk and see if you remember," does that mean she remembered that they're supposed to meet up? And she was like, "Oh, yeah, just go."
No, I don't think Cousin It knew the deal that they would meet.
But she told him to go.
Yeah, because she was like, "Oh, yeah, you should go." Like, if that's your reminder, he just she just basically set him off, like, "Okay, go for it."
I don't know, there's too many holes right there, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I assumed that was him in another parallel universe, probably, like, the boy who switched. Remember
Mhm.
later on in the end okay, I gotta say that poor boy, like, when he was younger, he had to, like, go through the trauma of having his dog alive in one world, and then his grandpa dead in another, and
Y
then going back and
Yeah.
forth. I was like, "Man, that sucks."
He didn't
That
know
must be
which
so
universe
traumatic.
he was supposed to
Yeah.
be in.
Imagine you wake up tomorrow and you don't even like, your whole world is upside down, like, I'd be like, "Oh my goodness, poor kid." But I assumed it was maybe that version who
Mm,
ended up staying away, but that version doesn't know what the other one did. Does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah, yeah,
He just started the ripple effect or, like, the butterfly effect or whatever to make sure that he wouldn't meet her.
right.
So I'm assuming he set that time somehow. Yeah, hopefully they explain that because once again, time travel and parallel
Mhm.
universes get really confusing.
Well, and it seemed like they jumped very quickly,
Yeah.
which threw me a little bit, but, like, at first, if my eyes are not directly on the screen the whole time, it you
It's
can quickly
confusing.
get, yeah, confused. So I was
Yes.
like, "Okay, I gotta go back because I don't remember, like, where is he right
Yeah.
now? What's going on?" But overall, I think it was interesting to watch. I actually
Mhm.
think it's a really good anime discussion piece for,
Mhm.
like, friends who, like, let's say you guys all sit around a table and you try to figure out, let's say you all watch just this one movie and you try to figure out the holes before watching the other movie to see what pieced together. Um,
Mhm.
but I wasn't like I'm not like jumping for joy, like, "Oh, this was the best anime shoujo I've watched in a while." Da da da. It's nothing like
Yeah.
that. Like, it was interesting to watch, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but that's about it. Would I watch it again? Probably not.
Yeah. I'm on the same page with you there. I feel like just this standalone, I wouldn't really recommend it. I feel like it was just it's that thing where it's, like, missing a piece, and I'm assuming that the other movie is the other piece,
Mhm.
and I really didn't know whose love story it was, that, like, it just didn't feel very clear to me, and it just personally wasn't really up my alley because I feel like there are other time shift love stories that have been
Yeah.
done very well and really entertainingly.
Well, not only that, I feel like the emotion behind the story. I honestly feel like with this particular show, it didn't have the emotion piece. Like, I felt like I wasn't as moved
Yeah.
as I
It wasn't.
probably should have been.
Yeah. It honestly, even the character, the way they were styled, the art style, even the parents, like, the overall emotion, I feel like the parents like, that first scene where the dad tells his little son, "Hey, Yuno's dead." I was like, "What?" Like, there was no he just says it so nonchalantly,
Yeah.
and even the way the parents reacted to, like, how Shiori like, I know the mom cried and everything, but they just felt so detached as characters, like, all of
Right.
them,
Well, and I think
and
part of that is the voice acting too didn't really help. That's why I said, like, I felt like the voice acting didn't have as an emotional impact
Mhm,
as it could have been and or should have been. I think the voice
mhm,
actors did a really good job, but I know for a fact that there are other anime like this one where the voice actors kind of convey the characters' emotions and feelings a little bit more
yeah,
than it should be. Now, mind you, I don't necessarily know if that's just how the characters are supposed to be played out.
it's like, meh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very meh. Nah,
It's
I
like
agree, I'm right
it's
there
not
with you.
bad, it's not good, but honestly think if the characters had a lot more emotion, I think it could have been better.
Yeah, and I think that goes in with, like, the character development. We never saw, like, a really strong relationship with anybody develop. Because 'cause I'm assuming it was, like, a love story with Shiori, but, like, we never saw them develop together, and it just, everything kinda was, like, halfway,
Mm,
and hopefully the other movie will fill the other half, but I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. I hope so. I think this story is mostly about a young boy who spends his whole life trying to overcome grief
Mhm.
and basically a how far would you go for the love of your life type story,
Yeah.
which is beautiful, beautiful. The story, don't get us wrong, the
The
story is
concept, yeah.
beautiful. The concept is beautiful.
Just didn't play out as well
Yeah,
as it could have.
yeah. So I'm curious to see how the other movie
Pans out. Yeah, I
pans
agree.
out. Yeah. So then
Excited.
that way we can give a better
Yeah, we
description.
will have a
So,
better yeah, we'll have a better understanding,
mhm.
but,
That will be next week's
uh,
episode, guys. So make sure you come
yes,
back.
stay tuned. And let us know, like, what if you guys have seen this, let us know what you thought. I'm pretty sure anyone who's probably seen this has probably seen both of them by now, but
Mhm.
let us know because we're interested to know. Also, did you guys feel the same way about the characters feeling kind of lacking emotion? Let us
At
know.
least, yeah, it depends on if you've watched the movie in English or in Japanese.
Oh, yeah, that's another difference
Yeah.
there.
Or in
But
whatever language it is that you watch your anime in.
mhm.
We watched it in Japanese, so
Of course.
yeah. So
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We can't wait for the next one because we gotta see the second part. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Anime Sekai Podcast. And be sure to tune in next week for the continuation of this. We hope you guys enjoyed again and see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
bye guys. See you guys next week.